What's up, friends and listeners from all across the globe? It's Pedro Luna here from the Yogi Show podcast, alongside my co-host Yogi Brian. On this beautiful day, we are bringing you an awesome conversation down the rabbit hole with David Snyder. David Snyder is recognized as one of the world's leading experts on hypnosis, NLP, mind-body technologies for peak performance, persuasion, and covert influence. Yogi, Brian, and I had so much fun on this episode. A lot of learning, deep down the rabbit hole, soaking it all up. We dive down on the law of attraction, manifestation, hypnosis, reprogramming the subconscious mind, how to live a better life, really, in this moment, right here, right now. So enjoy this episode, my friends. If you have not already joined the conversation on the Yogi Show podcast community page on Facebook, we are all hanging out over there and waiting for you. So come hang out, introduce yourself, be part of the community, because that's what this show is all about, creating a sense of community and inviting you in to hang out with us. So without further ado, let's get to David Snyder's episode here on the show. We hope you enjoy it, and we will see you on the other side.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Yogi Show. We have David Snyder on the show today. David, how you doing?
Excellent. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. How you doing, Pedro?
Dude, amazing. I got my kitty cat headphones on. It's late night in Boca Raton,
we
Florida.
are rocking. By the way, I spent like 9 years in Coral Springs. Boca Raton was my backyard.
No way, dude. I was just looking at we used to live in Coral Springs for we lived there. I
lived right off Woodside and Riverside, right there.
No, that's insane. That's so crazy.
Wow.
University and Coral Ridge Drive is
Mm-hmm.
where we live.
Yep.
So dude, craziness. Like everything is happening.
I actually taught Reiki right down there in Margate.
Oh man, no way. Like this, I
Crystal Fantasy Bookstore was. I don't even know if they're still there anymore, but
I don't know if they are either. I haven't heard of that one, but amazing that we're all connected. I had no idea that you lived out this way, and then now you don't. Now you live on the other side of the country.
I got excommunicated to the left coast. You're too weird. Get out of here.
It's all good, man. You're on the left coast, man. I always say like West Coast. I love it over here on the East Coast, but I'm from Chicago. And,
that's where I'm from originally.
Yeah. It's nice here, but it's just hot as shit, man. You know what I mean? This season now, so we're in the beautiful thing, in the beauty times. But life is good, you know. And you're in San Diego, right? San Diego? I said LA, but it's San Diego. Correct?
It's San Diego. Yeah, I spent 4 or 5 years in LA when I was going to acupuncture school for my master's degree, and then as soon as I graduated in 2005, I beat feet to San Diego.
It's nice down there, man.
Nice
Brian, have you
weather.
been to San Diego?
I love San Diego. I go there as much as I can.
Yeah,
as much as I can.
And for Phoenix, you can do that, you know.
Oh yeah,
it's only a 6-hour drive. 5 hours,
nice and easy.
Making it happen, man. So David, we are so excited to have you on the show today to talk all things. We know you're like the hypnosis guy. Like you are the guy, you know. You are the one of the experts out there in the community doing it. And Brian went down the rabbit hole on hypnosis. And Brian, I'll let you go kick it off with how you went down the rabbit hole and how you found David, and we'll pull it all together from there because it's a cool story. Super cool.
Cool story, everybody. And I never thought I would dabble with hypnosis, NLP, or any of that. And I started a meditation journey last February, and like meditation, just doing it consistently and developing that practice, and just realizing like mantra work, affirmations. And then I did a quantum jump meditation, and it was really powerful. And then I wanted to do that on YouTube because I couldn't find like a quantum moon meditation like outside of the studio that I did this at. So as I was looking for like a quantum moon meditation, I saw hypnosis, and I'm like, it was like one of those things like try to be hypnotized, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to. This probably won't work. And I remember like laying on the couch, and they took me through this hypnosis, and I was down the rabbit hole. Like I was gone. Like I was like raising my right hand, like the helium balloons. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like I can be hypnotized. And then I started doing like the sleep hypnosis. So I put it on, and like literally 5-10 minutes, I would be asleep. And normally I have like problems going to sleep, and like I was out sleeping. And then, just getting into hypnosis, I found David's YouTube, and then I probably watched like every single one of your YouTube videos in like 2 days.
Fast starter. You consumed everything.
It's like potato chips. You can't eat just one, man. It's like Stephanie, my administrative goddess, she goes, David, I got another one. They always begin the sentence with, I have been watching David's videos for the last 3 days.
They're so good. So
thank you.
You throw those out there, and it's just packed with so much value, and it really changed my meditation and changed my life pretty much. I mean, I thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad. I'm thrilled that people get this so much value out of the work that we put out. Because if you're like me, you spent many a year or money going to seminar after seminar, and you come out feeling still hungry, like
right.
They didn't give it all to you, and it's like there's something missing here, and after a while I got sick of that, so I just started looking for ways to take something from one discipline and see if it would work in conjunction with another piece from another discipline, and lo and behold, what I discovered, what I thought were like these separate little modules of isolated gold were actually more like Legos. That you could put them together
building blocks,
in various sequences. And if you collect enough of these systems, you start to see patterns emerging that gives you clues as to what's consistently working. And that led me back to the study of hermetics, which is where all of our metaphysical disciplines evolve from. And the vast majority of our modern sciences have their roots in hermetic principles. The whole idea of vibration and correspondence and these things. And I started using that as kind of my Rosetta Stone, so to speak, for what's true. And that brought me to the whole hermetic principle of the law of analogy, which this is in yoga, we can bridge everything from neuroscience to ancient mysticism to law of attraction if we understand the hermetic principles. And one of the ones that few people talk about the least is what they call the law of analogy, which in layman's terms means that the same patterns of experience or the universal patterns express themselves at different levels of human experience. And when you and NLP, which is kind of where I made a name, hypnosis and NLP, one of the things that's wonderful about NLP is it teaches you to look at the world in terms of process and structure. In other words, look beyond the jargon, look beyond the culture, look beyond the meanings of words, and look at the mechanics of what's actually being done. And when you see it, to the structural aspect, the mechanics of what's being done, the patterns that make all these things true emerges. And you find the same patterns in yoga, you find the same patterns in qigong, you find the same patterns in esoteric Christianity, you find the same patterns in NLP and quantum physics. And it's these patterns that give you the truth. Everything else is window dressing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what led me to be able to put these things together. And I decided really early on that I wanted to give people something that they could use right away. They could just watch a video, they had a question, they had a problem, they had something they wanted to fix or solve, and they could watch a video, get something solid that they could go out into the world and just put to use and change their life. That was my goal.
Value. And value.
I think that's how it has to be. I came up through those periods where, buy my $20,000 course and I'll give you the secrets to the universe.
Right.
Fuck you. Right? And so I decided to invert that equation, and I didn't come up with the idea. The guy who I think came up with the idea was a guy named Eben Pagan, who some of you may remember in his earlier incarnation as David D'Angelo, who wrote a book called Double Your Dating way back in the day. But Eben Pagan was also one of the pioneers of internet marketing, and one of his concepts was move the free line. In other words, take your best stuff and give it to people for free so they can get an amazing result, and then they have greater faith in the technologies you're sharing with them.
Yeah. And watching your YouTube videos, I'm like, you're my go-to. Like if I ever wanted to get certified, I've actually been looking in like certification for like hypnosis, just because I want to lead, guided meditations and just be better at guided meditations. And like, I really feel like just the induction technique and just saying the mantras or the affirmations over and over again. I mean, it really changes that subconscious, or from what I found, really change like that's really the lasting change, especially for me. Like when I do something over and over again for like 60 to 90 days, like I see that lasting change. It's not something where like I do something and then like after a week, like I go back to my old behavior. Well, it's like I have to do it consistently. And that's what watching your YouTube videos like really got into my brain, is like I have to do this repetitively, consistently. And like, aren't you like a black belt too?
Several times over, yes.
Yeah, like that's what I heard too. I'm like, yeah, David's a ninja too. He's a secret ninja.
And he's,
like, he's
ninja,
probably
man.
fighting crime at night.
I actually, ironically, I actually do
Batman.
have the entire Bujinkan Ninjutsu curriculum up to 5th degree black belt in my library. So,
Wow.
no big deal, right?
Yeah, NBD. Yeah, NBD on that.
but
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Well, again, there's lots of things that I do, but they're all, to me, on the surface, you see, this black belt in this and black belt in that and black belt in this and Reiki master this and NLP dude that and seduction guru there and doctor of Oriental medicine here. And on the surface, they all look like different stuff. But when you get down underneath it to the structure, it's all the same.
No doubt.
It's all the same. And that's what's cool, is because if you can learn to internalize and master those principles, then you can recognize them in operation and you can tap into them anytime you want. Like, you were talking about how learning, the hypnosis online, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but you said it when you learned the inductions, all of your meditations got better and you were able to do things more effectively. Was that?
Yeah. Actually, I was watching your videos and then I bought like a simple a hypnosis book. It was just like just a simple like and in there it showed some induction techniques. And I was practicing on myself, which I just watched a video of yours today. It was about the face
face reading.
Face reading.
Definitely want to get into that.
It was something about
shit.
like
Cool
self-hypnosis. Like you really need someone else to take you through hypnosis so you can understand what hypnosis is.
Yeah, that's the big trap when people, pardon my nose is bothering me today for some reason.
Problem.
But one of the traps of people who are trying to sell self-hypnosis courses is they don't tell you what to expect. And see if this resonates with, if you've ever tried to learn self-hypnosis, someone learning self-hypnosis, the first couple of times they put the videos on or the audios on, it goes something like this.
Knocked out.
Okay, here I am. I followed the instructions. I'm relaxed. Is it working? Am I in trance?
Right.
I feel relaxed. How do I know this is working? Am I really hypnotized? I'm not sure this is working. Right. And the problem is that if you followed the instructions to any degree, you're in hypnosis, but nobody tells you that hypnosis doesn't feel much different with your eyes when your eyes are regularly closed. And so what happens is you actually go into a trance, but you're rehearsing doubt.
Yeah.
The entire time you're in trance.
All the doubt. Yeah.
Right. So what we did was we flipped the script on self-hypnosis training, in that and this isn't where I was going with this, but I'll circle back to it, Brian. We flipped the script on hypnosis training. We said, if we're going to teach people how to do self-hypnosis, we're going to train them to be hypnotists. In other words, we're going to teach them how to put tons of other people in trance over and over and over again. And they're going to be put in trance tons and tons over and over and over again. So they know what it feels like and they become intimately familiar with the experience. And then once they have that level of training, we're going to teach them how to turn it all to self-directed trance work. And that has, and there are certain elements that we build in that dovetail perfectly with a lot of the what's the word on the kriyas and the yogic meditations and visualizations and things like that. There's certain elements that if you build those into your yogic meditations, you're going to get an amplified response. Because whether you're doing yoga, meditation, qigong, biofeedback, neurofeedback, whatever words you assign to it, it all distills down to two basic things: altered states of consciousness and the nervous system. Everything connects there. So the more we understand the dynamics of the neurology, the dynamics of the subjective experience as well as the organic experience, in other words, what the body's literally doing, we can go back to these ancient techniques that have been preserved and reverse engineer what got lost, what was left out. And when we put those things back in, these ancient techniques become exceedingly more powerful, because the things that we're putting back were always there to begin with, but they got lost over time.
Yeah. So almost like, as I'm going deeper down the rabbit hole, just with meditation and hypnosis and all this, it's like, I'm really paying attention to what I watch, what I listen to,
Totally.
what my repetition is internally, like my internal dialogue. Like I'm paying attention to that because it's just set of patterns, right? Just set of patterns over and over again.
Everything human beings do translates down to basically pattern recognition. And when you can read somebody's patterns and you know how to interrupt those patterns, you know how to change those patterns to something more useful, or as is often the case, keep doing the things that are actually yielding you a result and stop doing the shit that's not.
Literally, because the whole premise behind it is like when you're caught in these thoughts, right? It's like the same thing over and over. It's like all of a sudden, for me anyway, it's like I realize like, holy shit, like I literally like go backwards thinking I'm like stepping out of the dimension. Like I come back, it's like, whoa, like none of that was me. Like none of that was like, where did those come from? Like, how did those get into here? You know what I mean? And then like, I got to filter them out. Like let them
There's
go.
several ways that they do actually. And one of the biggest ahas, which is really not a surprise to hypnotists, but it's really coming as a surprise to the scientific and the psychological community, and it dovetails perfectly with what you're saying, is this idea of generational trauma. This idea that we inherit trauma from our ancestors.
Right.
In our cellular memory, and this shit erupts spontaneously when we encounter a situation or a context, or as is often the case, a period of time in our life that was analogous to when the trauma occurred in our ancestry.
Right.
Now, as hypnotists, it doesn't matter when the trauma occurred. We're going to use the same tools to fix it. But this idea, like what you said, that's not me.
Right.
You could be quite right. It might have started way before you, but you inherited the suitcase,
right?
And decided to spontaneously open, and you get the joy of fixing it.
Yeah, exactly. I went down the rabbit hole the other day, guys, on genealogy, like thinking about like who is my grandparents' grandparent. Like I have no clue who that guy is, but somehow I'm here because of that guy. And then I was just, and these thoughts and things like, and I was just, I did a meditation called the Web of Life, and all of a sudden I was just fucked up. I was like,
fucked up in the hopefully a good sense. It's just like where the fuck am I kind of.
Yeah, one of those things. Like, how did I get here?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and those how did I get here states, and maybe you can touch up on this, David.
Sure.
The different states of like your brain waves, right? So like when we're sleeping, we're in delta, and then we wake up, we're in theta, and then alpha. And
well,
then,
we cycle. We start when we go to sleep at night. We're cycling through an alpha, then we go to an alpha theta, then we're going to dip into delta, and we're going to kind of hover between delta and theta for. Then we're going to come up to a light alpha theta state. We cycle. So we're not at a level of trance. And the other thing is we got to be careful when we start talking about brainwave states, because there's a lot. I think there's a lot of good things that brainwave states can do for us. But the problem with the challenge I see, and again, this is just my opinion. One of the things that happens is people get these machines and they try to hook up to a certain brainwave state.
I've seen that.
Right, mind machines with biofeedback, and those are fine. But you have to remember that applications require certain brainwave states to function, and if you're only getting the brainwave state, but you're not attaching it to the behavior, the application you want, it's not going to help you. So, like people want to do brainwave entrainment to get into a flow state for sports.
Yeah.
Well, they sit there in a lotus position with this brainwave machine on, going into a theta or an alpha theta or a delta state, or if they subscribe to the gamma frequencies, right? They're putting them in these gamma wave states, but they're not doing anything else.
Right.
You understand? They're not going through the movements of their sport. They're not playing their piano.
Right, they're just sitting there.
They're just sitting there, and so that state gets linked to that posture.
It gets associated with that.
That doesn't help them when they're swinging the golf club, Brian.
No, so we need to modify these types of drills and trainings to give us a connection, to use NLP jargon, to anchor the state to the activity. So it's a feedback loop. One engenders the other. And I think while biofeedback and electrostimulation of the cranium, I use a device called the Halo Sport, which was designed specifically for creating neuroplasticity in the sensory motor cortex of the brain, but it's designed to be worn while you're doing your work. right? It's really cool.
I need to check that out.
Yeah,
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
It's about, go to haloneuro.com. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I just use them in my martial arts training
not
classes.
yet. After this show,
But,
you sell out, and then
but yeah,
David, we need you.
Yeah. But anyway, but my point is that the whole point behind that training, if you watch all the training videos and all the Olympic athletes and things, they're wearing it while they're performing, right? And so, depending on what you're using, if you're using like a neurofeedback device, you may be out of that state within 15 minutes after you take the device off. So you have to really start to integrate the activities of what you're doing with the brainwave states. And that's why what we've found in terms of getting these brainwave states is actually to tap into the holographic nature of the nervous system, which means using your posture and your breathing, but also your imagination and your visualization. Because if you've ever experienced a state, you can reactivate that state pretty much at will if you understand how the steps your body went through to experience that state in the first place.
I see.
And it's to use a funny story. There's an old NLP technique called drug of choice, which is literally using this exact same idea to bring back any drug state you've ever enjoyed without the need of the substance.
Shit.
We need that right now.
we can take those same exact mechanics and apply it to any of the flow states that we want.
Wow.
Right.
See, I'm excited about this, and especially everybody out there listening, I'm sure they're excited about this too, because when we're doing yoga, practicing yoga, it's like a dance. It's like that flow state. Like we're just after like 5-10 minutes where we settle and we're relaxing and we're just kind of like connected to the body, and like time almost disappears when you're in that flow state. Like what are some tips on people listening to get into that flow state? Like it's a good tip.
First and foremost, if there have been times when you were in that state, sit down and remember how you were standing or sitting and breathing when you were in it. And then remember that time. You guys want to I'll play with you. You guys want to play with this?
Sure. Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, go ahead and close your eyes. Now, I'm not the pleasure police. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to fly back on the wings of time to a time in your life when you felt the most amazing, thrilling, fulfilling, satisfying pleasure ever. Now, I'm not going to ask you what you were doing, who you were with, what substances were involved, if it was legal or illegal, how many state lines you crossed. I don't care. All I care, guys, is that when you remember that moment of absolute pleasure, or if you care, flow. I don't care. What are you seeing when you remember that time? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? Because when you do that, when you see what you see and you hear what you hear and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there is an awesome feeling that you get, a feeling that you really, really like. And I'd like you to become aware that there's a place in your body where those feelings start, where they grow and where they spread from. Go ahead and point to where you feel that. As you point to where you feel it, notice if there were a color, or maybe even a series of colors connected to those amazing feelings, what color or colors would that be for you, first impression? And whatever color that is, or colors, imagine a big ball of that energy floating above your head. And I'd like you to notice how the feelings in your body shift and change. As with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, that ball of energy begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of good feelings, a cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating you, protecting you from all less than pleasurable experiences, real or imagined, while at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything he most wants and everything he most needs in an infinite, ever-expanding, and unlimited supply. And when you know you've got that, breathe those colors through your entire being. Let it fill you up like water fills up a bottle, like fluid fills up a test tube, like hot air or helium fills up a balloon. Anchor it in so fully, so completely, no force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. And when you realize it's true, test it. Try to turn it off. Try to take it away. And notice what happens instead. What do you notice, guys?
Wow.
Pedro, come back to us. Come
back,
back, Pedro.
Can I open my eyes?
Open your eyes. Notice how good you feel.
Yeah,
What happened when you try to turn it off?
It got stronger.
Yeah.
You mean you're stuck feeling good now?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's a suck deal. Right. So that's where we start.
Yeah.
You can
that
do
was
that.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And I'll be back later, guys. I got to go.
And that's the nice thing is everything that we just did has been in various disciplines of yoga for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
It was just hidden.
Yeah.
And then we can take that even further. We can take that even further if you guys would like.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Okay, so here's what, close your eyes again, breathe that color through your body, and notice what happens again. Now, if there were a picture floating in the space around you that represented that amazing feeling, a picture you could reach out and touch, where would you reach out to touch that picture? Just go ahead and reach out and touch it. Now take both of your hands, trace the outline of that picture with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Just for fun, grab the edges of it, and just like you would expand the windows on your iPhone, make it as big as the room. Notice what happens to that feeling. What'd you notice, brother? I think I can.
Huge. It's
All right.
huge.
All right.
Man.
Now bring it. Now here's where it gets cool. Bring it back to its normal size. Now shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp and notice what happens. What just happened?
I feel like it got bigger.
You feel like you concentrated it. Okay, you're one of those. Okay. Now bring it back to its original size. Now slowly keep the size exactly the same. Now slowly pull it closer to your body and notice what happens. What happens now, Brian? Stronger or weaker?
Stronger.
What happened, Pedro?
Definitely stronger.
Lift it up over your head. Pull it down around you like a big blanket.
Ooh, it's warm.
I'm like wrapped up, man.
Exactly. Notice how every time you change the size and the facial location of the imagery, your experience of it changed. It's because your neurology extends beyond your physical body into the space around you. And when you tap into that and you start manipulating those spatial astral constructs, your entire energy body responds. Now we don't in a yoga class I can say that. In a hardcore sales class I'm going to say your mirror neurons and your proprioception. It's the same shit.
Right. It's the same
shit, right?
Yeah.
But that's literally how you're built. So you can take anything that's bothering you, shrink that shit, point to where you feel it, reach out, touch it, shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp, throw it behind you, won't bother you anymore. But you got to get your body involved, which is why we started with the breathing and reaching out and touching it. This is why a lot of people can't get the same level of change with their meditations that we get in our hypnosis classes, which is more like energy psychology or vibrational psychotherapy, really. But hypnosis is as good a word as any. Hypnosis doesn't care what you call it. So, you know, you're better off not calling it hypnosis at all and not have to deal with all the baggage that word evoked. But the bottom line is that one of the reasons that purely mental activities or interventions are harder to make work is because it leaves the greatest amount of the subconscious mind largely untouched. It's your body.
Yes. And I saw one of your videos about the body. About, I think it was I don't know if it was like an anxiety or like a self-doubt. And you said like hold up your arms in the air.
Yep, power poses.
2 minutes. Yep. And it just really reminded me of yoga. I mean, everything's yoga, everything's like that, but it's like a warrior one pose. You know, it's like you're standing up and you're there. And it's like, yeah, if you hold that for a couple minutes, you're going to have like self-confidence and like, can you talk about like those positions in the body and how that works?
Well, first of all, one of the biggest feedback loops that we have to understand that the state of a human being is nothing but interacting feedback loops. Whether these things are vibrationally driven or hormonally or biochemically driven, that really doesn't matter. All we are is just this never-ending system of feedback loops. And the biggest one that we deal with is the mind and body feedback loop. For every psycho-emotional state that you have, there is a corresponding physiology and breathing pattern that allows it to manifest. And so one of the first things that we teach our students is the power of the body to control the mind. not the inverse.
Mm.
The power of the body to control the mind. Because for the vast majority of humans, even people practicing yoga, unfortunately, and again, I mean no disrespect when I say this, but a lot of yogic teachings have devolved to being glorified, calisthenics and aerobics.
Sure.
And they've lost that deep transpersonal dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And so this part has largely been like overlooked or not taught or whatever. I'm not saying that everybody's that way, but you see it enough.
Mm-hmm.
So for every psycho-emotional state you have, there's a corresponding physiology. In other words, a posture and a breathing pattern that facilitates it. So one of the very first things we have to teach our students is we can't teach them that abstractly. We can't give them the writing in a book and expect them for it to really drive home. We have to give them an experience of that. So the first thing we do is we have them remember a time in their life when they felt the most amazing, victorious feeling. They saw something they wanted. They decided they were going to get it no matter what. They made a plan. They put the plan into operation and boom, they nailed it. Home run. And we revivify that experience, much like I did with you, and we have them step into that posture. And then without changing their posture, without changing their breathing, we have them summon up all of their willpower, and as an act of will, try to feel bad. And they can't do it. They can't do it. And then we do the inverse, where we have them put their body in a depressed posture, shoulders slumped or a loser posture, and as an act of will, try to feel good. They can't do it. But if we tell them, okay, now hold on to the depressed state and shift your body back, hold on with all your might to the depressed state and shift your body back to the winner posture, the moment, like within 30 seconds of them shifting their body back, their state's gone, in spite of what their conscious mind was trying to do. So the takeaway from this is that unless you are a highly adept yogi, you are someone who is specifically trained to control your mind and body in extraordinary circumstances, like military special forces, elite athletes, Shaolin monks,
right?
Ninjas,
yeah,
right?
Wim Hof and Wim Hof,
Wim Hof for sure,
yeah.
Right? Unless you are trained that way, the exact opposite is true: is that your physiology will override your psychology. Regardless of what your conscious mind believes or wants to believe, if the physiology is generating an emotional state and with so much amplitude, it will overwrite what your neocortex wants to do. So if that's the case, then we need to start influencing ourselves and other people from the body up, not the neocortex down.
How interesting.
That is
How
so
interesting. But so true. But so true. But really true. Like I was like sitting here pondering as you were speaking about it. I was like a light bulb went off. Like holy shit about the power, like the power pose, like that Brian was mentioning. I was like, it just makes sense. Like it just makes sense. Like,
and that's the significance of Amy's work. I mean, I've probably sent more people to that TED Talk than any other single person on the planet. But what Amy, and we've been teaching more advanced applications of power posing, or what she's called, come to call power posing for decades now. But that's not important. Well, what's important is Amy did the science.
Mm-hmm.
She did the research that supports this idea. And that's what people need in this day and age. They need evidence-based. Everything and that's why we try and what
therapy,
we do. That's why everything we try to do, whatever possible, we try to give them the evidence and or the actual direct gnosis, the experience of it, so it becomes cemented in their neurology, and it breaks apart those old limiters and that barrier between abstract knowledge and direct knowledge.
Yeah, and all the doubt, just overcoming the doubt.
And it opens you up. It opens you up to take the next step. And that's so important with the things that we do, especially on these transpersonal disciplines like yoga and qigong and TM for lack of a better word, or any of the other meditative processes. Kabbalah, which is one of my favorites. Huna is another one. They all have this transpersonal aspect to them, but because it's largely taught in an abstract theoretical kind of experience with a few pieces missing here and there, mainly the body integration. If there was any one thing that I would recommend anybody who's doing any metaphysical or spiritual practice to get your body back in the game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Get your meat involved.
Brian, that's for Brian. Brian, that's for you, bro. Seriously. We were just talking about this earlier. Remember you had the Met yesterday?
Yeah.
Tell about your day yesterday.
David, I had like a shitty day yesterday, and it really wasn't like nothing really was going wrong. I mean, in the big scheme of things, like nothing was really going wrong. And like in the morning, I have a practice. Like I wake up, I write a gratitude list, I set an intention, I meditate for 20 minutes, take a cold shower, go for a 30-minute walk. And I was just still in a shitty mood, like all day, a little bit today. And like, I was really like, what's wrong with, like, what else can I do? Because I walk 30 minutes, I feel good, but I just didn't, like, I haven't had like a physical yoga practice lately, like we're at a physical yoga practice, and something about hip openers, I don't know, something about hip openers, like when I'm in pigeon pose or opening up my hips, I fucking let it all out. And I get emotional and like oftentimes
that doesn't
cry.
surprise me at all.
Yeah. How come hips? How come?
Yeah, what's up with the
Not
hips,
hips,
David?
it's psoas.
Psoas?
The vast majority of emotions in the body go right to the psoas. And then it tightens up your abs, and then it refers to your low back.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a book out there. It starts with the psoas, and it talks about how the vast majority of emotions just go there. And that's why you'll see in a lot of massage therapists, the one place they never touch is the abdomen.
Yep.
Because of the ab reactions that come out.
Yeah.
You know, my wife is a chiropractor, and she does a form of body work known as active release technique, which I've trained in Chinese massage, and I thought that was rough. I have been in fights that didn't hurt as bad as active release technique. Okay. And when she works on your abs, it just starts blubbering out. But that's one of the things is if you're, and I love those guys, that's where a lot of it goes into the psoas. So you hip abductors or hip flexors. That not surprise me at all.
How interesting. I did speaking on the stomach thing for a second. So I did a Vedic Thai massage course, like was a 7-day intensive. And my teacher is like a stomach specialist.
Right.
So we did like a whole half day on like the stomach, and like
I bet you had fun.
Yo, you were like the giver and the receiver. So like I did it, like I was the giver for, and like you had I called it the dive bomb, and like you had to do it around the clock, around the whole abdomen, and basically take your hand and dive bomb on the exhale breath and like hold it in there, and then like slow release. Dude, like the emotions and the energy swirling around that room after that half day, out of this world. Like
it's insane.
So crazy.
That whole area is a hotbed of repressed emotion.
Yeah,
it really is. And you know, I almost, first time my wife did an active release on my stomach, we almost got a divorce.
Yo, shit.
I called her every name under the sun. Oh, it was horrible. But she's a good sport, and that's her way of paying me back. Every time I piss her off, she goes, "Remember the tummy?"
Yeah, dude. Tummy time. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Because I know where you sleep.
This is awesome, man. This is awesome. David, take us into the law of attraction. So I know I'm definitely into law of attraction. I'm into, like putting things out there and like seeing is believing kind of thing. Like I have a vision board, and I've put some really cool things on there that have come that have come right to me. And I think it's from repetitively seeing it, repetitively just like envisioning in a meditation of like, I'm good, that's going to happen, or that is happening, and affirming it as if the event has already occurred, kind of like a yoga nidra. So can you give us a little bit, like for listeners out there that maybe not so versed in law of attraction and your expertise on it, like how, if someone's working on something, they have it out to the universe, like how can they bring that into their life maybe faster, or just like bring it in? Like, what are your takes on that? Okay.
Well, first of all, there's one of the most emotionally triggering classes I ever took was a class on manifesting. Okay. I'm for those of you who don't know my energetic background, aside from having a doctorate in Oriental medicine, I've been a Reiki master since before Reiki was cool. Back in the 90s. Yeah. I'm actually, if you look at my lineage, I'm actually like two generations removed from Phyllis Furumoto. Or 3 generations. It goes Phyllis Leigh Furumoto, who studied with Usui, and then Hawayo Tagata studied with Usui, but then her daughter, Phyllis Furumoto, taught the first 21. One of her students was a woman named Virginia Samdel, and one of her students was a woman named Carol Owen, who taught me.
Who's your teacher?
Oh, wow.
How cool.
So it's kind of interesting, because I back in the day when you only got Reiki 1 in a weekend, and you had to be 5 or 6 months before you come back and do the next one.
Right.
Now you can get them all in the weekend. Right?
I was gonna say a little bit different nowadays.
Yeah, things have changed a little bit. I'm a little bit of a purist with that, but be that as it may, I'm a certified Reiki master. I'm certified in pranic healing, advanced pranic healing, pranic psychotherapy. I'm an advanced DNA theta healer. Bengston. I'm certified in the Bengston Energy Healing System, which is what is directly relevant to what we're going to talk about in terms of manifesting. Because one of the techniques taught in the Bengston System is known as image cycling, is probably one of the single most powerful manifesting techniques I have ever seen. I have manifested patently impossible stuff with this thing, and the people who apply it, they manifest faster and stronger. So what you were going back to what you were saying about your vision board, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to your vision board, and I want you to take 5 of the things on your vision board. Okay. And
it's right over there. I'm looking at it.
And as you look at the vision board, ask yourself a question for each one. Once I have that, what am I going to do next? And what would that be like? Imagine what that would be like, right? And then once you have that, what would I do next? And then take all of those feelings, condense them down into a word, a phrase, or a symbol. So that every time that feeling or that word comes up or that symbol comes up, all of those feelings come with it. All right? And then what I want you to do is I want you to cycle through each one faster and faster and faster and faster. What you're going to notice, there's going to be a point, and you can go to my videos on YouTube and watch me doing this with people, but I'm giving you the basic mechanics of it.
Yeah.
Doing this over faster and faster, you're going to reach a point where there's like this little like that membrane between hyperspace and like reality in the movies. It's almost like you feel this little membrane, and all of a sudden, everything disappears.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah, it's almost like everything that you're consciously cycling disappears, and you know it's still going, but you can't see it. And every now and then, little flashes come out. You want to maintain that and just keep cycling it faster and faster and faster, only as long as it still feels good.
That's awesome.
All right. And then, and do it for as long as you want. And when you're done, stop. When you want to do it again, go ahead and do it again.
Okay.
And then when the things on your list manifest, take it off your list and replace it with something else.
Okay.
That's the most important piece.
Okay.
Take it off. Once you got it, take it off your list and replace it with something else. Because if you keep cycling it, after you've manifested it, you'll erase it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because in order for you to have it, you have to lose it again.
True. Okay, heard.
Got that directly from Bill Bengston, who created that image cycling technique to help people get out of their own way when they're doing energy healing and hands-on healing. And he was teaching people who largely didn't believe in energy healing how to do hands-on healing. And what's cool about the Bengston system, again, it's been around for 30 years. No one knows about it. They know about it now because I keep screaming about it for the last 2 or 3 years. The Bengston system has the most documented cases of curing rats bred to die from cancer in double-blind animal-controlled studies. They're injected with a cancer that is 100% fatal in rats that are genetically, immunologically impaired to be susceptible to this cancer, and he's curing them. And what's funnier is Bill didn't want to do the healing himself, so he taught college students who didn't believe in energy healing to do the healing, and they cured the rats.
Dude, that's wild.
Oh my gosh.
Okay?
That's wild.
And so what's interesting is I studied Bill's stuff. You know, honestly, I follow the rule of 3. If the same name or the same system comes to me from 3 different sources within a very short period of time, that's where I need to go next.
100%. I'm right there with you.
And so I, ironically, after the third person mentioned Bill Bengston to me, saying, your stuff sounds an awful lot like Bill Bengston's. I was like, all right, I get the hint, Lord. So I called up Equilibrium Energy out of Chicago. Or actually, I didn't call them up. I actually went to their website because that's where I thought they were based out of. And I went to their events calendar.
You just showed up in your ninja shoot.
Yeah.
On their balcony.
And so what happened? And so I looked at their coming events, and I'm looking at the Bengston Energy Healing System. He's in San Diego 3 weeks from that day.
Of course he is. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're 100% there.
Oh, dude.
Tickets
I was camped out the day before.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Bill kind of let out of the bag about the image cycling process, it was designed specifically to teach people how to get out of their own way. Because it's not the person that heals, it's the source that's coming through you that heals. And you use the image cycling to distract every part of you. But the side effect of this rapid image cycling was that the things you cycled started to manifest. It was a side effect.
Yeah, that's the side effect of it.
Right? Teaching, it's like the people who created the 36 questions. Are you familiar with the 36 questions at all?
I'm not.
Scientists, scientists, in their zeal to study relationship dynamics, wanted to be able to test pure relationships. So they wanted to find a way to get people who didn't know each other to create a relationship so they could run tests on the relationships. And they came up with this 36-question format that was designed to facilitate accelerated intimacy between two people who even may have had even radically different religion and political views. And so they used this to create groups that they could test, and didn't realize the significance of what they had done. In other words, I have a list of 36. Matter of fact, people who went through this process, many of them wound up getting married.
That's just, yeah.
Within 3 hours of asking each other 36 questions and answering them, they had gained such a level of intimacy that they wound up dating.
That's amazing.
Wow. Don't do that with us, with Pedro now. We're married right now. We're already married.
It's all right, baby. I'm from California. It's all good. All good. But anyway, so how does this relate to what you're doing in law of attraction? Okay, so first of all, the first thing we need to understand is that the way the Hermetic universe works is like vibrations attract like vibrations. Okay? So one of the problems that we have with manifesting is that we're too fucking serious. What is a higher vibration? Stress, anxiety, critical thinking, or joy?
Joy.
In the metaphysical universe, higher frequencies dominate lower frequencies, right?
Yes.
So the more pleasure-based your manifestation, the higher the vibration you're sending out. The problem that we have is that most of us don't realize that in addition to all the things we want, there's usually a lot of seriousness wrapped up to it. And the Hermetics would call it the lust for results. We want it too much, so we get too serious about it.
Like forcing it.
Yeah. If you're perceiving any kind of effort when you're doing manifestation, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So the first thing is it should be as fun as humanly possible. And this again, little sidebar, but how many people do you know that do affirmations?
Quite a few.
Right?
Yeah. Quite
now, this is a fun little thing you can play with. Next time you're in the group, ask how many of them wait till they're feeling shitty to start doing affirmations.
It's a lot of them.
Yeah, majority.
Right. You just shit on your own. You just shit on your own party.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing now is they're chasing a state change. There's I feel like shit. I got to do affirmations.
You're right, bro. Yeah, 100%.
You understand? That's not manifesting. That's therapy. You understand the difference, right?
Yes,
so we got to get our state right before we start to manifest. How do we do that? Posture and breathing. And then this image cycling process that I just outlined to you will generate tremendous pleasure states in the body. And the faster you cycle through it, the more rapidly the unconscious and the higher conscious mind are stimulated. The mental body is stimulated, goes right into the void in the akasha, and it manifests. Gets your conscious mind completely out of the way. And that's what we need.
Yeah, get out of the way.
And you'll get healthier.
Just get yourself out of the way.
You'll get healthier because you're generating massive pleasure states. In fact, Bengston System is the only healing system I've ever discovered where the practitioner had to be purely selfishly hedonistic.
Dude, I'm like messed up right now. This is
amazing. This is
so
amazing.
Good.
Yeah, this is
down
amazing.
the rabbit hole, like thinking about all the things I'm going to manifest.
I will warn you, though. I will warn you about one thing. Sometimes the way things manifest can be rather brutal.
I was just talking to someone about that. Like, be careful what you wish for, you know? It's like, I want financial abundance. Let's just use that one for an example. Okay. And it's like, if I say like I want it that way, it's like you want it that way. You think doing the job that you have now, not realizing you have to quit that job and then go do a different job to get that financial, whatever it is, you know.
The secret to using the vast majority of manifestation techniques, really, but talking about image cycling specifically, because I really champion that one pretty much above all the others, is you have to hold on to the what and let go of the how.
Yeah.
You know what you want, give the rest to the universe. If there are certain parameters you want, without getting overly restrictive, do that. But here's the other thing, and this is the reason why a lot of people will not commit to a manifestation process, because they're terrified that they're stuck with whatever they get.
Yeah.
They think, well, if I do this and I manifest it and I don't like it, what then? Well, you just manifest something else.
Exactly. It's like
but they don't think that way. They think they get one shot.
Nah, right. Exactly.
No, and you don't. Once you understand that there's infinite possibilities around you every moment of every day, and that image cycling process can take you down any one of those off ramps, you're not stuck. You just got to be a little bit more. But what happens is, as you develop this ability to manifest, it starts to get automated, but also you start to formulate things a little bit clearer, a little bit better, because now you know that the dynamics of the system you're working with. Mm-hmm. And so you'll think a little bit before you manifest.
It's so interesting. So interesting. And I've been got a question for you on subconscious reprogramming. I've been doing a subconscious reprogramming for about 4 months now, and I throw it on when I'm sleeping. Like, and it's like on YouTube, it's like an 8-hour loop, and it has like affirmation. It's an abundance, like just says affirmations and music. What do you think about listening to those throughout the night? Like, does that really help? Like when you listen to them when you're sleeping?
Yeah, well, it certainly won't hurt you. And that's my biggest concern when we're doing things to program ourselves or stimulate our brains or whatever. Just as long as it doesn't hurt us, it certainly won't. If it may, the degree of help we get is going to vary from person to person, but at least it ain't going to hurt you. And there's a lot of good studies that indicate that sleep learning is very effective. One of the things I recommend people who are, again, going back to the whole manifestation idea, the two optimal times for any kind of self-work are as you're falling asleep at night and as you're waking up in the morning. So the vast majority of, and those are naturally occurring, very organic, deep level trance states. And the window, depending on how heavy a sleeper you are, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 15 or 20 minutes. That's the optimal time to do your image cycling. It's the optimal time to do any kind of alchemical processes that you have, like gray room or magic frame or color breathing. If you're doing any kind of Kabbalistic meditation or Huna meditation, those are the optimal times to actually do that work, because your body is already completely aligned in state. And as you cycle through that, you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck in terms of your meditation or your altered state work.
Yes. And I've noticed too, like, I think it was maybe 2 to 3 months in when I was doing that reprogramming, that I started noticing that right when I was going to sleep, I was like talking shit to the affirmations of myself. I was like, fuck you. Like, that's not, no, like I noticed myself like talking back, like arguing with the affirmations.
Excellent.
And I was like, okay, like my subconscious is like breaking down, maybe. Right.
Well, what you're doing is you're triggering the protective mechanism surrounding the issue you've internalized. When you hear that voice, what you're really hearing is the voice of somebody else who you internalized.
Yeah, exactly. Dude. Yes, exactly that.
A couple of things you got to remember: that the most important ages that a human, besides the genetic memory that we get from our parents or whatever, the most important critical phase in a human being's life is 0 to 5. 0 to 5, because during that time there is no critical faculty at all, and there's barely any distinction between self and other. So like literally your mom and your father, or your parental figures, if you have aunts or uncles or whoever raised you, they become the template for your self-concept, your identity, and God.
Oh, snap.
And so when we think of God, however we think of God, look at your parents. That's where it all started.
No doubt.
Right? So when you're doing that work and that voice is saying, fuck you, right?
Yeah.
Then understand that the voice isn't the problem.
Yeah.
The voice is a symptom. There's a reason that voice is there. And there's a feeling in your body connected to that reason. Point to where you feel it. And the moment you find the feeling space, you've now accessed the source that leads you directly to the root. And depending on what technologies you have to bear, you can remove it.
That's on point. That's amazing.
Boom.
The rabbit hole.
The mic has been dropped, man. That was so good. The mic has been dropped, dude. Dude, David, that was so good, man. It's just so true. I think about all the times I have a 2-year-old. I guess he's almost 3 now. Shit, he's getting there. But I think about like the things that he's learning at this age, and like those are the traits and the habits that he's going to carry with him for the rest of seemingly the rest of forever, unless he's got to do some serious work to like unwind that kind of stuff.
Well, there is hope, because with the China, you asked about face reading. And one of the
I
things
was going to get back to that. It's so funny. I was just going to get back there and boom.
One of the things that the Chinese said, because remember, Chinese, we look at face reading as a way to, diagnose personality and temperament and all these other things. But you got to remember, Chinese medicine is actually one of the very first diagnostic systems in Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. And so we're diagnosing the health of your organs, your psycho-emotional states, your trauma history. It all marks. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that ancient system is the Chinese say that when you fix a problem that's marked on your face or anywhere, you fix it 9 generations back and 9 generations forward.
Wow.
And if you talk to some of the most, some of the leading experts in, help rearing healthy children or whatever, many of them will tell you, if you want to fix your children's shit, fix yours.
Yeah.
And if you look at what they were saying thousands of years ago, all these studies with epigenetics and generational trauma, and this idea of if you want to fix your kids' shit, fix yours, it all kind of has a kind of theme to it, right? It all starts with you. It radiates. If you think of time going in multiple directions, past, or let's use 2-dimensional model, your center, future, past, and it's radiating this way. The moment you make a change here, it radiates both directions.
Oh.
So you can clear past karma because that's actually why you got it. Mm-hmm. It was carried down the bloodline, and we've seen this clinically. I've seen people literally take on the memories and the behaviors of donor organs.
That's whoa.
Oh my gosh.
It's fucked up, man, but it's cool. It is cool in a good way, but it
blowing my mind.
It proves, this idea. Whether you believe in spirit, whether you believe in this anything beyond the physical, there's genetic proof of past life. You have a genetic memory and millions of years, in fact, of genetic memory that is passed on. So if you go inside looking for shit to clean up, you'll never run out.
It's always going to be there.
And that's one of the problems that people have is they have this idea in their head, well, if I just fix all my shit, then I can move forward. And so they spend their entire life fixing shit and never move forward.
Right.
Right. So what I tell my students and what I tell my clients is, look, move forward. When you run into something that stops, fix it and keep moving forward. Don't go inside looking for shit to fix because you'll find it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If it's stopping you from getting what you want, fix it. If it's not stopping you, when it's ready, it'll come up.
Yeah.
But sometimes we use this idea that we just got to keep fixing our shit and fixing our shit and fixing our shit to avoid actually moving forward.
Yeah. I can, I just think about that. Like the people that are, like so many people are coming to yoga or meditation for like a healing, right? And then that's like the first initial reason that they're coming. And then there's something else that continues to keep them coming. And oftentimes I see it as like a positive thing that's, there's been a shift in their life. They let go of that one thing and now they're on to the next. They're like, oh, well, now I have to go and deal with this thing. And like, oh, now I'm dealing with this thing.
100%.
It's always like something that we're dealing with. It's like, shit. And so let me ask you this question. Maybe there's an answer for you. So within my body, I've been dealing with like physical energy that, let's call it, that feels like it's stuck or like I have a pain or an ache that my mind will just asphyxiate on that and it will just stay there. So if I had like an energy ball, like in my right pec for a long time, and then it went and it moved and it just kind of moved and my neck started hurting. And then that energy ball is gone. Like, I don't know whatever happened to it, but all of a sudden, like my neck hurts.
It's called body mapping.
And now it's my ankle and my ankle's been that way for like, I don't know, a few months, like 3-4 months. I'm like, what the fuck is my ankle? Then I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, here's the pattern, Pedro. Like, this is a pattern, and the pattern will be, the next thing will come and like your ankle will be just fine, and like, it's like almost as if I'm waiting for the next thing to happen so that my ankle will feel better. And I'm like, wait a minute, so David, how the fuck do I break this pattern? And
there actually are several ways to do that. There actually are several. The way you're doing it is the organic way. It's the classic ancient way. One thing at a time drips through the block and it comes to the surface and you deal with it. And then the next thing comes up. The faster way is by engaging what we call the somatic search engine concept. Now, in our Identity by Design class, where you can literally customize the building blocks of your personality, we talk about this concept we call the somatic search engine. And what that means is that, you ever notice when you go to Google and you type a question into the search engine bar, that the answers and the information you get is directly related to how you've asked the question?
Yes.
Your body and your neurology must answer any question that you put to it, regardless of how badly formed the question is.
Okay.
It has to. Think about this. Why, in fact, is the moon made of green cheese? Or why might it be made of green cheese?
What the?
Now, notice you're trying to find an answer.
Yeah.
Right after you get that whole... Now, right after you get that, what the fuck did he just ask me response?
Yeah,
right?
picture.
Now you're going, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that.
I did. Like maybe it's mozzarella. It kind of looks like mozzarella. I don't know.
Right? It's fucked up. But here's the thing. The quality of the life we lead is directly related to the quality of the questions that we ask. How many people have you ever heard say this? Why does this always fucking happen to me? The unconscious mind is sitting there going, oh, he wants a list.
Me lately.
Brian.
Me last 2 days.
He wants a list. Yeah.
He wants a fucking, and so your neurological, well, it's because you didn't pay attention to your mom growing up. Your dad was an alcoholic. You didn't pay attention in school. You cut class. It gives you the laundry list of why that's that way. And yet, if you asked a simpler, a better question, how can I make this day even better? It's going to give you a list of shit you can do. And that, once again, changes the trajectory of your perceptual filters.
I love that. Like questions too. Like questions kind of...
They actually make better affirmations too.
Yeah. And that's like with like an intention or whatever, like in class, or like asking yourself a question. Like, yeah, it breaks that cycle of just that repetitiveness of like the same shit every day. And if the moon's fucking made out of cheese, I'm an astronaut tomorrow.
That's
I'm going there.
Right. But here's the thing. Like, let's take the simple idea of, circling back to law of attraction. Let's take the simple idea of affirmations. If your state's not right when you're doing affirmations, fix that first. Right. And most people say every day, and just to go Emil Cooey, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. Right. Just write it thousands of times. Try this. Every day and every day. Why am I getting better and better and better? How am I getting better and better and better? What tells me I'm getting better and better and better? You understand the difference? Just do it in your head. Notice what happens.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Wow.
Right. So that's the somatic search engine idea. When it comes to healing illness, whether it's physical, and by the way, at the level of the nervous system that we're interacting at, there is no difference between a physical pain and an emotional one. As far as the neurology is concerned, it's the same shit. It's just what lens are you projecting it out of? And this isn't even David making this up. This isn't even metaphysics. This is like PubMed shit. You can go to PubMed, type in acetaminophen and social rejection, and what'll come up is medical studies where social psychologists were trying to test the effects of physical pain or the pain of rejection and how the body relates to it. And the takeaway is they found out that the same parts of the human nervous system that modulate physical pain also modulate emotional pain. And so they engineered experiences where people experienced social rejection. And they wanted to test it. So they gave them an acetaminophen tablet for the social rejection pain, and it went away.
Here's an Advil.
PubMed.gov.
Holy cow,
I'm
man.
checking that out.
Yeah, I'm checking it out.
Just type in social rejection and acetaminophen. That should give you the keywords you need.
Okay, cool.
Do it, everybody. Do it, everybody out there listening.
Dude. Wow,
right?
Dude. Whoa.
So it's all. Remember I said patterns?
Yeah.
Patterns.
Yeah.
Patterns show up. It's all about the nervous system and the body. It's all about altered states of consciousness. The human brain is simultaneously analytical, archetypal, hierarchical, metaphorical, yada, yada, yada. And so when we look at physical pain and emotional pain, it's the same part of the brain that's modulating that. It's the same. So we can deal with it there. And that's kind of where we're going out with the somatic search engine concept. When you start working with this, there's 3 parameters that we want to start to zero, we want to zero down in on. One is it acute or chronic? First 2 things. If it's acute, we can just do one intervention and blow most of it right out the window. If it's chronic, we may need to do 2. Okay. And then the third thing we need to goes right to, the third thing we need to ask is it okay to get rid of it? Because many of the pains or the emotions that we're feeling have safety lessons attached to them. And the neurology in most people does not have a really great way of pulling out the lessons and letting everything else go. If it has to make a choice between perpetuating the pain and preserving the safety lesson so you don't do that shit again, it'll keep everything.
Right.
But there's a mechanism in your neurology that says, man, if we let this go, he might forget this shit happened and he might do it again. Right? So you ever try to unmake soup? Right? It's the same idea. You need to get, in that case, you need to give the neurology, the nervous system, which is what I call the whole complex of conscious, unconscious, superconscious, meat suit and everything. That's what I call it, because it's literally true. You need to give it an alternative process to extract the safety lessons so it's willing to let everything else go. And that's why we have two basic interventions that we teach everybody right on YouTube. You can just download it and start cleaning up your shit right away. One is called energetic spinning, and the other is magic frame.
I'm writing this shit down. It's on your channel?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Energetic spinning?
Yeah, energy spinning and magic frame. And it was so important that I gave it to the world for free, because when the universe gives you something, you're expected to use it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I got the download for that technique in 2005. I used it twice, never used it again until 2012, till the universe sent me to fucking China to a cancer ward. Damn. And I was tasked with trying to help my wife's daughter, my wife's aunt, who was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she was given like 2 weeks to live. And we talked about it prior to me going there. And I told my wife energy, and my wife is brilliant. I mean, just like stupidly brilliant. And I mean that with love, but you know, she was like she had her PhD in biochemistry before she went to acupuncture and chiropractic school. Okay. She was the valedictorian of her acupuncture class and her chiropractic class at the same time.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Okay. And amazing.
Yeah. So you know, when we got the news that, and this was her favorite aunt, like the one she loved most in the world. And so we talked about it. I said, well, look, you have all these energy techniques that I taught you. You have everything from your acupuncture training. Let's go out there and see what you can do. You know, we're going to say, you know, we're there to pay our respects, but if there's anything we can do, then, you know, let's go ahead and see what you can do. And I'll be there to support you in whatever way I can. And so, remember that movie Hitch, when the date went just really bad and he turned to the one guy and says, you know, I pictured that going real different in my mind somehow. Well, that was our experience, right? We make the journey to China. We rush through the passports and everything else. And we get to the cancer ward. My wife walks into the cancer ward, takes one look at her favorite aunt, who has basically shriveled to nothing in the chair or in the bed. And you know how you just look, you like, she ain't doing shit. All professional demeanor went right out the fucking window.
Gosh.
And like everybody's looking at my wife, and my wife's looking at me, then everybody's looking at me, the white guy who doesn't speak a word of Chinese.
Were you wearing a vest?
I might have been,
because your best game's awesome.
Your best game is
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I don't remember. I think I might have been wearing a hoodie of all things. But here's the thing: is prior to me walking in there, I had gotten the download for spinning in 2005. It's 2012, 7 years later. And up to that point, I had made my living therapeutically as a regression therapist, which is all talk-based. You know, assuming you spoke the language, can follow my instructions, all this stuff. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to say this story has a happy ending. It has a bittersweet ending, but an important one.
Okay.
And so they all start looking at me, and they knew I do something weird. In China, the one thing you can talk about pretty freely is energetics. So the closest thing to what I was doing was qigong, and they had known I worked with all kinds of terminal or chronic illnesses and things like that. But I was a regression therapist. I don't speak the language. This woman can't follow my instructions. How am I going to understand what she's saying? Fortunately, my wife has really good English. She knew my work well enough that she could translate. But I looked at the situation and I said, I can't do regression here. What do I have? What techniques do I have that don't rely on language? And the only two techniques that came up right off the bat were spinning and gray room, which you see all over YouTube. And so my wife sat on one side of the bed, I sat on the other, and I just had her. And by the time we got there, she had tachycardia, shortness of breath, fluid in her pericardium, ascites. I think that's it at the moment. The cancer had spread all throughout her intestines and her peritoneum. And they were basically just trying to make her comfortable. They hadn't even told her that she was dying. That's a tradition in China, by the way. If you're dying, they don't tell you.
Oh shit.
They actually made a movie about it not too long ago here in LA, but I lived it. And I was pissed, but that's a different story for a different day. So I just started saying, okay, well, what's the priority here? Well, I know that your psyche is affected by your breathing. So the first thing I had to do was get her breathing normalized. And I told my wife, there's a feeling connected to the shortness of breath, point to where you feel it. So she points to it. I say, close your eyes and look at it. She's translating. I say, notice there's a color connected to that feeling. What's the color first impression? She says a color. I say, reach in and grab all that energy, that colored energy, take it out and hold it in your hands in front of you. Make sure you get it all, because sometimes it hides. And like a good little lady, she reaches in, she grabs all that chi or prana, depending on what system you're pulling from. She takes it out. She holds it in her hand, said, you got it all? She goes, yeah. I go, did the color change or stay the same? First impression. She goes, it's the same. I said, excellent. You're doing great. Notice it's moving. It's spinning in a certain direction. What direction's it spinning? She goes, this way. I say, grab it with both of your hands and make it the opposite of what it was. Now spin it that way and double the spin, double the speed, double the force, double the magnitude. Keep doubling it over and over and over again until it takes on a life of its own, until it's impossible for it to go back the way it was. And I'm doing it right along with her. And when you know it's done, slam it back into that spot. She spins, and she's as weak as she can, but she's spinning, she's doing her best, and she puts it in. And I put my hands over her hands as the energy and the new program goes in. She breaks out in a sweat, and her breathing normalized.
Wow.
Dude.
We did the exact same process for tachycardia, done. Fluid in the pericardium, heartbeat stabilized once again. The one thing that took a little bit longer was the ascites. By the third or fourth day of us going through this process with her, she was pacing up and down the cancer ward, dragging her IV bottle behind her like a samurai warrior.
Oh, man.
And everybody in the family is looking at me like, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? And so what was interesting is that we were there, we could only stay for about a week. And every day we were there that we could give her treatment, she got progressively better and better and better. And then we had to cut our trip and go back to the States. And what was interesting is and I don't know why they did this. To this day, I don't know. It bothers me, but I'll probably never know the answer. As soon as we left, they moved her to another hospital. Mm-hmm. And the moment they moved her to another hospital, she was on the express train downward. And my wife tried to do some remote healing stuff with the chi and the Reiki, and it just wasn't taking. And within a few days, she passed.
Sorry to hear that.
Now, and I was sorry for my wife, but what happened in that hospital room affected me on a bunch of different levels, because I realized something in that moment is that when the universe gives you something, the old saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. Mm-hmm. When the universe gives you something, it gives you a gift or a talent, it expects you to use it. You're expected to use that. That's the whole concept of the Taoist Golden Path, is the gifts you came into, you're expected to use to fulfill your mission in this life. And I didn't do that. I got this gift. I thought it was an interesting party trick I used to impress this blonde chick from Montreal the first time I learned it. And then put it away and never touched it again. And the universe kept turning up the pressure until suddenly 7 years later, I'm in a cancer ward in China where I can't do anything but that one thing I got downloaded during an intermission at a hypnosis training. And it's the one single most powerful technique that has changed the lives of almost everybody on my channel.
Dude.
Because it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was for the world.
Right.
And that's why that's one of the reasons we put it out there, because with this one technique, you can change so much about yourself. You can change so much and help the people around you who are willing to follow the process so much, so quickly. It's science fiction. 20 years later, I'm still looking back at people doing spinning. Every time they spin something away, and I go, that shouldn't fucking work.
And it worked.
That just shouldn't fucking work. And there it is. But it became the Rosetta Stone for unpacking the hermetic side of the energetics of all the different disciplines like yoga and Kuji and Taoist sorcery and Huna and all these hermetically evolved or descended practices. It became the Rosetta Stone for me to go back and look at what's going on here. And just like the original Rosetta Stone had a bunch of different languages translating from one to the other, it gave me the ability to look at these different puzzles with pieces missing and fill in what was missing. And so the spinning technique was a very powerful and very important milestone in the evolution of everything that we're doing. And when I got to the Bengston, that whole rapid cycling, that's just another form of spinning, Pedro.
Yeah.
And the faster you spin it, the higher the vibration. And you get reps in super fast. And so that's my belief is one of the reasons why this works so well, is because it taps into the natural principles that govern the universe. But one of the things is we got to be playful, we got to be joyful, even when we're healing some of the most heinous shit you can imagine. The more playful you become, the more powerful you are.
I love that. And that's one of the things that I kept hearing you say is, and it really got me into practicing it more, is when you say, like, even if you don't believe in it, like pretend to believe it, just play, pretend. And then like all of a sudden you're there,
yes.
You know, like I think you were talking about like how you're playing with your toys when you're little. And like at first, like that, you know, army guy was just an army guy, and then you're in a fucking war, and, or like you're playing with your Barbies or your dolls.
And that's probably the only time. That's probably the only time in your history where you'll ever be in a war zone and having a ball.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Having a great time.
Yeah. But that's the point. Is, you know, when you think about it, everything goes back to that childlike mind. Everything about who we are and what we become or what we can manifest goes back to our ability to become more childlike.
Yes.
It's hidden in the Bible. It's coded. Well, not so much. Be as little children.
Yes. And like that, when I was going deep down the rabbit hole, it's like, you hear like, be like a child, and like you're in normally like alpha theta, right? You're in a child, and that's your flow state, right? Yes.
Yeah. And the more pleasure you're having, the more effective you're becoming. But when you find icky feelings, all you got to do to start unpacking it, point to where you feel it, rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, turn it into a color, pull the color out, spin it the opposite way, slam it back in, and hold on to your ass, because your body's going to go through some interesting transformations really quick.
Man, I'm really looking forward to trying the spinning.
It's all over YouTube. You can just go follow along.
Yeah.
And we've had people do it on everything from math phobias to orgasms.
Wow. Yeah. Like whatever this stuck energy is that you know is following me around, like I'm gonna spin that shit out.
Spin it out, brother.
Spin it out.
Yeah. Now the other thing, just to kind of, you know, close the loop a little bit, you know, I said there was another technique called magic frame.
Yes.
And that's specifically designed for situations where, like, you point to where you feel it, you turn it into a color, and it's like a 9 or 10, and then you spin it and it drops to like a 5, and then it drops to like a 4, and then a 2 and a 1, but then it goes to like 1, it doesn't go any further. Anytime it doesn't completely dissolve, you can almost guarantee 100% there's a safety lesson attached. So what you do is you point to where you feel it, you reach out and touch the picture, just like I had you guys do, remember?
Yeah.
Put a big black frame around it. Imagine it's like a television with a contrast knob, and turn the contrast knob all the way to the right till the image whites out completely. Notice how that makes you feel. Turn it all the way to the left until the image and you got to do this with your body. You got to get your body engaged. This is one of the secrets. Turn all the way to the left until the image blacks out completely. Notice how that makes you feel. Decide which one you like better. And then whichever one you decide, turn it all the way to that color, either white it out completely or blacked out completely. And in glowing golden letters with the index finger of your dominant hand, write out all the lessons that experience had to teach you, positive or negative, so you can keep all the lessons and let everything else go. And don't be surprised if you're writing for 20 minutes. Now, some people know exactly what to write. Some people just draw squiggles. Doesn't matter, because there's a part of you that always knows, and whether if it just comes out as squiggles or it comes out as some language, your body is expressing what it needs to express, and it's telling your neurology, we're keeping this. Everything else can be let go. And some people just like draw pictures. Some people write fuck you across the screen. Some people write with both hands simultaneously, like they're writing Chinese and Hebrew. However they do it, however you do it, that screen will scroll like a tablet, so you have an infinite writing space. If it comes up, just write it on the screen. Feelings, about 50% of the time, people will start emoting. Write that shit on the screen and just keep writing till it's done. When you know it's done, you reach up, you shrink that shit down to the size of a postage stamp or even smaller. You throw it behind you and you nail it back there beyond the horizon. When you know it's nailed back there for all eternity, impossible to come back, test it. Try to bring it back and notice what happens instead. 9 times out of 10, it's done. They can't get it back. And then if there's anything left, most of the time there isn't, you just spin what's left and you just keep spinning it until it's zeroed. The only other time you would do that is if it goes from like whatever it is to a 0 and then comes back. That's also an indication that there's a safety lesson that needs preserved.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank
you for
yeah,
that.
Thank you so
Dude,
much.
This has been an awesome episode. You know, it's like we've had many guests on the show, and everyone is different. Everyone's story is different. Everybody's knowledge base is different. What they have to offer the community and the value that you have that each guest has is always different. This has been so inspiring and just so much information to download. You know, just a lot of information. Like you're a wealth
Take
of
lots of
knowledge.
notes.
Yeah, definitely. Like the good thing is that we made this recording, so we can have it whenever we want.
Right,
Yeah.
Everybody out there, you can listen over and over again.
Yeah,
and
you can keep listening.
Definitely go check out David's YouTube. You will go down the rabbit hole, and you'll just watch them nonstop.
One last thing that I wanted to say is like, for all the people out there that are that are creators and like everything has to be perfect. I have to have the perfect lighting, the perfect setup, all that shit, you know? It's like, David, you just literally set up a camera wherever you are to do your thing, and you just record it, and you just like put that shit on YouTube, man.
Yeah.
And like it works.
I love that.
Because it's not about the filtered photo. It's about the message. It's about the message.
It will always be about the message. And that's the thing that we need to understand. We live in a generation that's tired of the Hollywood glitz. As much as we like reality TV, at the end of the day, we're looking for something real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And people are hungry. They want to be fed. And if you've got something that feeds people's spirits, that feeds their soul, that gives them what they're hungry for, they don't care about. The only thing I can say is the only production value they absolutely do care about is audio.
Audio quality.
You can have shit. You can have shit video, but if your audio sucks, you're going to hear about it. Literally, no pun intended. So if anything, just have good audio.
Yes. Good tip. Very good tip. Just have good audio.
Yep. We've learned a lot of this shit on the show, and that's a really good tip, David. Yeah, that's
my pleasure,
super key. And but thank you so much for coming on to the show.
My pleasure, man.
We'll make sure to link everywhere to find you in our show notes.
Excellent.
On the show. But if there's anything that you wanted to hit on that we didn't hit on, please feel free to lay it out there.
Well, let's see. We've talked about healing, law of attraction, face. Did you have any other questions on face reading before we sign off?
I think Brian, did you?
I was scared that you're going to read my face. Like I was like,
I did that already.
I better get my face. Like
I did both of you.
Shit. Oh,
you can't turn that shit off, brother.
Let's see the analysis. Quick rundown.
Oh, let's see. Well, first of all, you hide your face with a beard, which means you actually want to accentuate the wood energy and the wood element in you, which means you like to be more assertive. You hate to be told what to fucking do.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You just fucking hate it, right? But you love to be the hero. Like you will work harder for somebody for free because it's your idea than you will for getting paid.
Oh shit.
100%.
Oh my God. Yeah. What? I have like goosebumps.
David, hit me, man. Hit me. What do I got?
Now, this could be just a racial thing, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not wealthy yet, you will be soon.
Oh, right.
Because you got a money nose, brother.
That's a big honker over here.
But you're also, you don't like to be told what to do either.
Fuck no.
Fuck no. But like one of the things that we look at in terms of energy and the body is the bridge of the nose is kind of like the entrance of the energy system to the body. It's analogous to the spine. Mm-hmm. And the nostrils are the exit point of the funnel. So when the bridge of the nose is really wide, that means you can take in a lot of energy, which is analogous to money. Mm. And if you look at the relative size of the bridge of your nose to your nostrils, there's not a great variance, which means you can control your spending pretty well. Right?
Heard. Yes.
The people with a smaller funnel here and a bigger here, it goes out faster than it comes in.
Right. So you're screwed.
They need to focus a little bit on managing. And what will happen, interestingly, is when you actually get that emotional trait handled, that feature will change. The quick way to do it, which I never recommend, is to actually get plastic surgery and get pieces removed or moved. It will actually change your characters and traits. I never recommend that, by the way. It's okay to add shit, but taking stuff away, never a good idea. Because I'm going to go out and I know you're a yogi, but when you were younger, were you really good at sports?
Super good,
Brian.
Oh, Brian, yeah. Oh,
well, I know, or I can tell by your eyebrows.
Yeah, I
was a golfer back in the day.
Yeah. I'll just give you one more thing. I don't know if it was your dad or some other authoritative masculine figure in your life. It may have been a masculine.
Hold on 1 second. Dad, stop listening right now. He listens to the show.
Well,
okay. Stop. Okay, let's go. Let's go now.
It may not be dad, but see a little divot right between your eyebrows?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we call that a suspended sword. Now that's indicative. Now, actually, it doesn't actually. I can't make the picture any bigger, so I'm going to give you both versions of that of what that means from both the fix-it side of it and the evolutionary side of it. People who have a very open or bright area between their brows usually have a very open third eye. They also, if there's a little indentation, also is indicative of having an open third eye. And it's hard based on I can't see too well.
Let's see. I'll talk here. Can
what you see on the other side, though, many times was when they have a marking here. What happened there is at some point early on, they got angry and expressed that anger. And they did it in such a way that the pushback was really, really extreme. So, like to use an example, and this is not necessarily you, but just to show you, once upon a time there was this basketball player who had a lot of strong young energy, kind of like you do. You have a very, very woody energy to you, and he was playing basketball, and this guy kept fouling him over and over and over again, just kept body checking him and doing all these things, and finally he just had enough, and he hauled off. And he whacked the guy, put the guy in the hospital.
Oh, gosh.
And what happened was they suspended him from the game. They actually put him in jail. The guy was in the hospital for like weeks. And that pushback, that ramifications of expressing that anger caused him to lock down his energy. And he gets this little marking here. And we call that behavior a suspended sword or a suspended needle. And what it really means is you have a lot of power. And again, if I'm reading it properly, it's hard for me to read it with what I'm seeing. What it really means is you have so much power locked inside of you that you're not expressing yet, that if you actually were to release that and let it go, you would be like unstoppable.
Oh, snap.
All right. And so when you see that marking, early on, it really doesn't, again, it can manifest in a number of different ways. But at some point, that self-limiting that you've got of your own energy is going to keep you from taking the next step. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to go in and you want to figure out, okay, where did that happen? And how do I release it so I can get my power back? Right. Now, yours is a little bit, and I can't tell because like I said, it's not, I can see this much of you. But I can't tell if you've got two lines or one.
On Pedro or me?
On
you, Brian. I think two from what I can see.
Okay, if it's two, then it's a little bit different. That's just impatience and annoyance.
Is this closer? Can you see?
No. Well, actually, you got a lot of space between your eyebrows, which is good, actually. So you actually did have. I think that's probably impatience. What I'm seeing. It looks like impatience. Yeah, from the angle I have.
Gosh.
Yeah, a whole lot of that.
I'm the most impatient, like Yogi in history, probably.
Right. Yeah. So based on the space between your eyebrows, you actually did have a pretty decent relationship with your dad. And so what happens many times when you have that big white open area, it's what we call father's blessing. And what it means many times is that we had a father who taught us how to work within an organization, to work within the corporate structure and kind of play that game. That's not, I didn't see that till you took your glasses off, but I was more focused on the marking between your eyebrows, but there's a lot of space there. So even though it may not be your favorite thing to do, you kind of know how to play the corporate game a little bit,
Interesting.
So going back to Pedro, I want his nose, first of all.
It's all coming.
That's a money
baby.
nose.
It's coming, baby.
That is a money nose now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah. He can be a little bossy. He's got nice cheekbones. So cheekbones are all about power. You've got money bags actually under your cheek. You got these nice little earth earth energies, Brian, which is usually someone who can actually accumulate money over time. So that's always a good thing. You both, I can't see your purpose lines, Brian, because you're hiding with a fucking beard, but that's all right. But if you look at
my wife's never seen me without a beard, so it's probably
you see the lines on Pedro's face that extend down from the bridges of his nose and down here. Those are what we call purpose lines. Now, most people try to Botox those out, but those are actually some of the good lines. Those are lines that people want to have. This shows that you're actually doing what you came here to do. You're more on mission in those respects. I would be very careful though, Pedro. How's your sleep been? Because your sleep's
Yo, it sucks.
Yeah. You see the little lines that come down here,
dude. Yeah, they've been like that for a long time. I think they only gotten worse.
Yeah, I think you need to start pampering yourself a little bit more.
Okay,
and
I would agree.
Yeah, tonify your kidneys. Maybe start eating a lot more of the darker foods like black rice and things like that. Spend a lot more time doing nothing, like literally doing nothing, because that's what kidney energy likes, is doing nothing. The problem is
I need more kidney energy. Yes.
Yeah. I would start there, and that's about and stop worrying quite so much. You've got a little line that starts at the center of the eyebrow here, and then it comes down and curves around the eyebrow towards the inner canthus. That's usually a sign that we're over worrying or overthinking about something. So just be kind to yourself. One of the problems that we have, especially because we live in an internet lifestyle and the internet goes 24/7, 7 days a week.
That's Brian's quote right there.
We're always fucking working.
Yeah.
Right. There's no such thing as like off.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
And so when we're not on camera, we're planning the next show, the next content, and we need to actually step away and do nothing. Water energy likes to be still. Okay. It likes to sink. And so we need to almost hedonistically, to the point where we feel guilty about it, conserve our jing or the material substance of our being, for lack of a better word. So you got some really, there's no such thing as a bad feature. It's you take the whole face, as in each peach, and you paint a mosaic of what that person is like. But the things that jump out at me first and foremost were the bridge of your nose, Pedro, and I can tell by your jawline, Brian, you've got a really strong jaw. So when you know something is right, you don't back down. Whereas somebody with a weaker jawline, they're a little bit more ethically flexible.
I like how you put that.
I like that, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, David,
so I hope that was
cool. Yeah, it was awesome, man. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, so good.
Thanks for doing
good.
That. Yeah,
My pleasure, man.
Cool. That was very cool.
This was fun.
This was very fun, very informational, very fun. Thank you for everything, and
You're very welcome.
Thank you for offering the value to our community. We can't wait to share this episode with them. If you're out there, listener, please check out David Snyder, the YouTube, all the links below in the show notes, and visit theyogishow.com to figure out how to connect more. Watch the episode on YouTube because the video is fun. If you're just listening on audio, hit it over on the YouTube, check it out on the video. And thanks for being here, brother. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
God bless.
Thank you. Absolutely. Namaste, friends. Good night.
Namaste.
Okay, my friends, and there you have it. Another episode of the Yogi Show podcast in the books. Thank you so much for David Snyder for coming on the show. A lot of information deep down the rabbit hole. This is one that I'm definitely going to listen to a few times to be able to soak it all up and apply these practices to my daily life. I'm really looking forward to checking out the YouTube videos that David recommended for me. And everything he has going on YouTube is really awesome. So please go check him out. All the links are below wherever you're listening right now, or you can check out theyogishow.com. And this episode with David Snyder will be there, so you can check it out. Thank you so much to DJ Taz Rashid for the music on The Yogi Show and for supporting us. If you have not already, join that Facebook community that I talked about on the intro, and you're still listening now. The links are below. Go over to Facebook, The Yogi Show community, and come hang out. Introduce yourself. Be part of something amazing. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And remember, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Namaste, my friends.